Video number 2 using this cute La La Land craft stamp. This is Marcy Ballerina that I'm using. In my other video I already did her skin. If you want to watch that, you can. We're going to move down to her little tutu, do her tutu and the flower in her hair and her little shoes. I'll show you how to color those. If you haven't watched the skin tone video, I'm really emphasizing on using the flicking technique. Pull out this marker, I'll show you what that is quickly again as a review. When I color, I only use the wide end of my marker. It never bends. I'm not smushing and I'm not pushing down like this. The only time you use your tip is if you're working in a very small area. But again, it should never bend. If you're bending your marker, it means you're pushing it way too hard into the paper, which means you're using too much ink. And in the long run, you're going to waste a lot of ink. Not to mention that it makes harder blending. So it feels uncomfortable at first. I know people complain in class at first that it feels uncomfortable, but if you really work at it, after a few days it will become comfortable to you. This is how I hold the marker. It doesn't mean that you can't hold it farther down or however you need to hold it, but this is how I color, just like this. And this is the flicking. So it's down and up, like you're making a check mark almost, so that where your marker goes down is the darkest and where it flicks up is the lightest. This is why I always color dark to light. You're constantly flicking out towards the light, never towards the light. Then you get a weird line. That light color works as a colorless blender and moves that dark color. So then you get weird blending lines that you have to go back and fix. So always dark to light, and that's the stroke. I encourage everyone to try it. Practice the stroke until you get comfortable. Obviously when you're working in smaller spots, your flicking will get a little bit smaller. But you're always working from dark to light. These are the colors I'm using today: B06, B02, B00, and then B quadruple 0. I might skip the B00, I'm not sure, but I always pull out a range that I think I might use so that they're ready. B06, I just love the name, peacock blue. It's a really pretty bright blue. But these 4 markers will blend very nicely together. Again, I started with her face with the center light source, so that means the rest of my image needs to be colored exactly the same. I'm not going to switch up my light midway through the image. You want to keep it consistent from the top of the image all the way down to the bottom of the image. For this, the sides of her dress are going to be the darkest. So I'm going to come in and pull my dark color. I'm going to add a little bit just down here at the bottom. I'm only working with her bodice first. Don't overwork the image. Don't color in so many spots that it's hard to blend. So don't come down here into the skirt. You want to work one section at a time. It makes for your blending much easier. Oops. And now this is B00. So these are going to kind of meet in the middle here. So now I've laid down I've always called this kind of my base coat. Now I come in here very lightly, adding each color again, picking up just the tail ends with the long end of my marker, and I'm blending those lines so that they disappear. So I'm picking up, moving out. This is the lightest color I'm picking up and moving out. Same thing over on this side. I'm going to go back. This is dried, so I'm re-wetting it very lightly. B06, this is B02. And I'm working at it to blend out those lines. The goal of smooth Copic coloring is no lines in your work. If you can see lines in your work, then you need to go back and re-blend it. This is still wet, I can tell. Usually with your paper you can kind of get a sense if your ink is still wet. I laid down a few layers so I know that I can still work with it. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit here on this point. And then I'm going to come in here and add this. Now what I like to do is, you can see you could use a B04 in this section, but what I do, and this also will save you on your markers, I'm going to take B02 to my B04 and I'm just going to grab some of that color, and that will make B04 for me. Do I have BO4? Yes, I do have the marker. Do you need it? Not really. You can make your own BO4 and make it blend together for you. Remember, with darker colors, you have to work at them more. It's not something that's going to happen in 1 minute for you, especially depending on what kind of paper you use. I'm using the Cryogen Iridescent. It is my favorite paper at the moment. I have been using it for over a year now and I love it. I'm very lightly going to go over here. Doesn't mean that you have to use it. If you have a paper that you love, keep using it. And there's her bodice. And you can see that it took me, a few minutes to do that. Don't freak out if you have to do it a few times. If you're getting frustrated with it, get up and walk away from it, okay? And then come back. You can always re-wet your coloring and start blending again. Even a year later you can, if you've used quality paper. If you use something that's very thin, like a copy paper or Georgia Pacific, then I can't guarantee that that will work for you, just because the paper's so thin and it will oversaturate. Now we're going to move down to her tutu. She has some little gathers and folds here that I want to pull out. Up here is going to be the darkest, again because the center of her skirt is going to be the lightest area, but coupled with the fact that she has some pleats in here. So I'm going to pull some of this darker color, which will be the bottom of my folds, down into here. And then I'm going to add some down here at the bottom as well. I can come in with BO2 and I can start blending. I'm really leaving area for that light color. I want that to really shine and highlight the tops of those folds. B00 is my light color. And here I'm just kind of very lightly laying it down. I'm not ready to start blending yet. I can come back in, and now I'm going to start blending this area. And I can take B00, and I'm going to start grabbing those edges. I'm still using the long point, long side of my brush nib, but I'm using more farther down towards that point, just to really pick up those edges and blend them outwards. I'm coming back in with BO2. Now I might even grab some BO6 just to make that other color. Just goes to show you that even if someone has all the colors, you can still do this. I do it a lot. I can be lazy sometimes and I may not want more markers out on my desk, so instead of pulling more markers, I'll just pick up color off my other marker. It's easy to do. And again, if you're starting your Copic collection or you need a few colors, it's a good way to bridge that gap until you can get what you need. Okay, I'm pretty happy with her skirt. I might come in here and blend it a little bit more when I'm done here. I'm going to move down to her shoes. Again, it was a center light source, so the center area of her shoe is going to be the lightest. I'll pull this dark color down here and around just the tip. Same thing here. And BO2. Just grabbing it just a little bit. And then B00 to fill in. This is a smaller area, but it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be shaded. If the rest of your image is shaded nicely, then each part of your image should be shaded. Don't skimp out on these little pieces. That's what brings the whole image together. Not to mention, because it's little, it's usually less blending and faster. Same thing on her little bows here. The center of each of these ribbons is going to be light. I'm just using the tip and I'm adding a little bit of dark. This is the BO2, just a little color next to it. And then B00 to finish it off. Okay, same thing with her bow. And then I'm just going to do the lighter color on the edges of the bow. Okay. And I'll go ahead and finish up the rest of her dress so you don't have to watch that. But that is exactly how I would color her. Using 3 colors. Again, I didn't use the B quadruple 0. I didn't find that I needed it. If you have BO4, you could have added it to the mix. But flicking, light source, not using a lot of ink on your paper, these are the things that are going to get you to achieve the blending and the coloring that you want to see. Next up, we'll do her hair. I know hair is always a bit of an issue for people, so I'm going to show you an easy way to get through it and make it look good.